In Hollywood, the most devastating betrayals often happen behind closed doors, not on camera. This is the story of how Reese Witherspoon's carefully built project was quietly taken, reshaped, and ultimately overshadowed by Blake Lively's failed version, revealing the fierce power plays beneath the glitz. When you think of drama in Hollywood, you picture on-camera conflicts, but the real game is in meetings, memos, and polite invitations that seem harmless, until they're not. Reese Witherspoon spent 5 years building Hello Sunshine into a serious force for female-led storytelling. Her project, The Quiet Years, was a stripped-down drama about estranged sisters and felt like a natural next step. But behind the scenes, casting delays and shifting creative control turned it into a silent fight for ownership. The story that followed is a masterclass in power, patience, and poise, showing that in Hollywood, loyalty rarely looks like a tweet. It's more likely to be a name left off a memo, a brand choosing a different ambassador, or silence where applause was expected. This is the cold, quiet unraveling of a show, and the quiet, calculated victory of one of Hollywood's smartest players. The rise of Hello Sunshine and The Quiet Years project. Reese Witherspoon had spent the last 5 years building something real. Her company, Hello Sunshine, had evolved from a feel-good brand into a serious force in film and TV. Female-led, emotionally grounded, and most of all, hers. So, when she developed a new limited series for Hulu in early 2023, it felt like a natural next step. The working title, The Quiet Years, a stripped-down two-woman drama about arranged sisters returning home after a tragedy. It wasn't loud, it wasn't buzzy, but it was good. The show promised an intimate story, focusing on trauma, reconciliation, and the weight of female memory. For Reese, this was more than just a project. It was a story deeply personal, built with care and authenticity. However, casting the crucial younger sister role became tricky, leading to unexpected studio involvement. Despite these challenges, Reese remained confident, envisioning The Quiet Years as a powerful, emotionally grounded drama that would continue Hello Sunshine's legacy of female-driven, thoughtful storytelling. Casting Blake Lively and initial cracks. The studio pushed to cast Blake Lively for the crucial younger sister role, fresh off a series of fashion campaigns, publicly unproblematic, a safe name, and a press magnet. More importantly, someone Reese Witherspoon had worked with before, someone who smiled the right way at red carpets, someone who seemed harmless, so Reese agreed. And that was the beginning of the unraveling. From the moment Blake walked into the room, the script started slipping away. At first it was just a few notes. Blake's team wanted character adjustments, not rewrites, just tweaks. Her role felt underwritten. The emotional arc seemed unbalanced. Then came wardrobe suggestions. Could we elevate the look? Something more coastal fashion and less rural. Reese didn't argue. She let the director respond, but by week 2, the costume designer was gone. Then came the script meeting. Blake brought a producer who wasn't even on contract for that title, but suddenly she was collaborating on the narrative evolution. The director, caught off guard, started calling Reese privately. One email read, "I'm trying to keep this rooted in your vision, but they're pitching a tonal shift that feels like a different show. They want something younger, glossier, branded." And Reese, she didn't reply to that email. She didn't say a word. She just started forwarding documents to her own legal team, because Reese Witherspoon isn't new to this. She's watched actresses turn branding into power. She's seen productions crumble under the weight of one image-driven rewrite. She wasn't about to stop it. She was about to let it happen and make sure everyone saw who was holding the pen. The silent unraveling of Reese's control. Reese's name disappeared from call sheets. Her Hello Sunshine imprint pulled funding from key back-end departments like catering, costume, and marketing, and there was no press release or phone call, just a cold, quiet unraveling. Producers scrambled, offering to blend styles and suggesting press control strategies, even hinting that Reese could return as a producer, not the lead. But she remained silent. This wasn't a retreat, but a decision. In a closed-door meeting with Hello Sunshine's legal counsel, Reese simply said 6 words, "Let her carry it alone." The public noticed no social media statements, no scheduling conflict explanations, just Reese fading from her own show. Behind the scenes, the shift was brutal. Her name vanished. Funding dried up, and the once collaborative spirit morphed into exclusion. Reese watched silently as the script meetings expanded beyond her control, with Blake Lively bringing in a producer who wasn't originally on contract, influencing narrative changes that shifted the show's tone towards something younger, glossier, and more branded. The director, caught off guard, privately expressed concerns to Reese through emails, indicating the project's vision was being radically altered. But Reese didn't respond. Instead, she protected herself legally, forwarding documents to her legal team. She had seen productions crumble before under image-driven rewrites, and she wasn't about to allow it to happen to hers. This quiet unraveling wasn't loud or public, but its impact was seismic. It showed that in Hollywood, losing control doesn't always look like a battle. Sometimes it looks like absence, withdrawal, and strategic silence. Blake's glossy, but hollow, rebrand of the series. The Quiet Years trailer dropped in early June 2023. It had everything Blake's team wanted. Soft golden hour lighting, poetic narration, slow motion shots of her walking through wheat fields in a $4,000 linen trench coat, and a caption that read, "A story about legacy, about sisterhood, about silence." But here's the problem. It wasn't her silence to tell. The original script was grounded, rural, intimate. It was about trauma, reconciliation, and the weight of female memory. What Blake delivered felt like a luxury perfume ad with dialogue. Fans noticed. The trailer for The Quiet Years dropped, and it feels like a Vogue fashion short. "I thought this was supposed to be a Southern family drama," a fan wrote. Reese Witherspoon remained silent. No comment, no tweet, not even a passive-aggressive story share. But the timing of what came next was brutal. That same week, Vogue ran an interview with Blake Lively titled Blake Lively, Reclaiming the Southern Story, featuring a 2-page spread of Blake barefoot in a lace dress standing in front of a reconstructed plantation set. No mention of Reese, no mention of Hello Sunshine, just a vague credit line. Concept originally developed by unnamed collaborators. Critics and TV writers who had praised Reese's previous work began quietly reposting their old support with new captions like, "We miss when stories were grounded, not glossed." And one Entertainment Weekly op-ed said it best. Blake Lively is a great actress, but not every actress should try to play Reese Witherspoon. "I'm sorry, but this is giving Blake Lively trying to become Reese energy, and the show hasn't even premiered yet." Meanwhile, Blake kept repeating phrases like, "It's about grief, but also glamour. It's soft power in visual form." Critics couldn't believe it. This wasn't soft power. It was soft focus. And as the full rollout began, the backlash hit fast. The Quiet Years should have been a layered emotional drama. What we got was Blake Lively playing a Pinterest board. The Variety review was brutal, calling it a visually exquisite, narratively hollow drama that feels more like a branded lifestyle ad than a series about grief and memory. But the worst part, the show didn't just bomb critically. It bombed with viewers, too. Completion rates were abysmal. Netflix buried the data quietly, but industry insiders noticed. This glossy, hollow makeover would become a cautionary tale about control and vision in Hollywood. The fallout and withdrawal from the project. One by one, collaborators and high-profile supporters quietly pulled out. No statements, no headlines, just quiet withdrawals. It wasn't just industry crew either. And Hathaway, who had been loosely attached as an executive consultant for the original pitch, was gone. Florence Pugh, who had praised Reese's concept months earlier on Instagram, started declining interviews that mentioned the show. When a fan asked Florence directly why she wasn't involved anymore, she replied with 3 simple words: "Protect your name." No elaboration, no shade, just a warning. That was it. Not a coincidence that Florence and backed out once Reese stepped away. Everyone knew what it was and what it became. Meanwhile, Vogue quietly updated its feature on the show. Once titled a Hello Sunshine masterpiece, it was now just streaming's next Southern drama. No mention of Reese, not even in the tags. That's when the shift became obvious. Brands that once aligned with the morning show and Big Little Lies weren't reposting Blake's promos. There were no partnership tags, no reaction threads, no reposts from Reese's allies. And as one studio insider put it in a leaked Slack message, the room isn't anti-Blake. It's just pro-Ree, and they know who actually built this. What nobody realized back in April when Reese Witherspoon walked away from The Quiet Years was that she wasn't done with the story. She had just decided to tell it somewhere else. Inheritance, Reese's quiet comeback. Reese repackaged the original concept into the new series Inheritance for Apple TV+, casting fresh talent and avoiding red carpet cliches. Its critical success and award buzz starkly contrasted with the failure of The Quiet Years, proving Reese controlled the story all along. Working under a different subsidiary, Reese quietly developed Inheritance with a new director, one who had initially backed out of The Quiet Years when Blake's changes began. The lead role went to Emilia Jones, a breakout indie actress who was grounded, gritty, and completely unknown to the red carpet crowd. This fresh choice sent a clear message: the story mattered more than star power. Inheritance maintained the original emotional DNA, centered around rural small-town trauma and complex sisterhood, but with a stripped-back aesthetic and sharper, darker themes. When the show premiered, it received glowing reviews, boasting a 91% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes and an 84 on Metacritic. It earned 5 Critics' Choice Award nominations, a stark contrast to the quiet failure of Blake Lively's version. Industry insiders were quick to acknowledge Reese's creative power, while Blake's project faded into obscurity. Without making headlines or grand announcements, Reese let her work speak for itself and quietly reclaimed the narrative. Inheritance's success proved that in Hollywood, true power isn't about flash and fanfare. It's about patience, poise, and knowing when to take control. The final word: Reese's cold, calculated victory. In a subtle podcast interview, Reese summed up the entire saga. Sometimes power is knowing when to let go, especially when the person you handed the story to thinks it's theirs. She said, "I think sometimes we confuse saving something with holding on too long. And there's power in knowing when to let go, especially when the person you handed it to thought it was theirs to begin with." No names, no drama. But everyone listening knew exactly who she meant. While Blake Lively stayed silent, merely posting a vague Instagram story that said, "Closure is personal," Reese moved quietly behind the scenes. She didn't need to shout or make headlines. Her approach was colder, sharper. A masterclass in strategic silence. This wasn't just about a show or a feud. It was about control and patience. When Blake's version of The Quiet Years flopped, Reese didn't rush to respond. Instead, she quietly developed the original story, repackaged as Inheritance, and moved to a better platform with better collaborators. This new series premiered to critical acclaim, earning Golden Globe nominations and praise for its raw, visceral storytelling. Meanwhile, Blake's project faded into obscurity, left to gather dust without support or renewal. The industry spoke. Reese's silent strength spoke louder than any tweet or public statement ever could. In Hollywood, loyalty and power often don't make the noise we expect. They don't always come with applause or flashing cameras. Sometimes, they look like quietly stepping back, letting others claim the spotlight, and then retaking control in a way no one saw coming. Reese Witherspoon didn't fight for the pen. She handed it over and let the other write their own failure. And that, in the end, was her cold, calculated victory. This isn't just a story about a TV show falling apart. It's a masterclass in Hollywood power, patience, and poise. In the battle for creative control, the loudest voice doesn't always win. The one who controls the narrative does. And Reese Witherspoon just wrote the final chapter. Her quiet, calculated victory shows that sometimes the real power lies in letting go and knowing when to step back. While Blake Lively's flashy version crumbled under its own weight, Reese rebuilt the story where no one could interfere. This saga reveals how loyalty in Hollywood rarely looks like a tweet or a public feud. Instead, it's a series of silent moves, behind-the-scenes decisions, and strategic silences that speak volumes. Reese didn't need to flood social media with drama or throw shade. Her actions spoke louder than words, proving that resilience and vision prevail over noise and hype. As viewers, This story is a reminder that what we see on screen is only a fraction of the battles fought backstage. And sometimes, the quietest ones are the most powerful.